Viewer discretion is advised.
Shrouded in thick fog, the mech stood. It observed its surroundings with watchful eyes. Suddenly, multiple arachnid-like entities manifested in front of it. They stood on only 2 legs, brandishing the rest. The mech unsheathed its sword and dashed towards the nearest entity. With one swift motion, it slashed and cleaved the entity in half. Though split, the top half preserved and fought on as it attempted to jab at the mech. It was then quickly dispatched with a few more stabs of the sword. One of them latched onto the mech's shoulder, a fatal mistake that was quickly punished. The mech activated its shoulder-mounted railgun and blasted the entity into oblivion. Suddenly, the surroundings were plunged into darkness as the sun was blotted out by yet another entity. A massive serpent with verdant plumage descended upon the battlefield. The snake of the garden, descending from heaven, bearing the fruit of wisdom. The serpent's emerald eyes glowed white. It swung its tail and slammed down on the remaining entities, killing all but one. Now, kill the beast and seal our pact. And the mech struck down the last remaining entity with its blade without hesitation. Perseus, Mikasa, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today we bring you SCP Foundation THAUMIEL Class Object SCP-5514. SCP-5514, also known as the Dragonslayer, is a massive humanoid mech constructed by the Foundation with assistance from the Global Occult Coalition. It is currently being utilized as part of the Defense Against Large-Scale Aggressors, or LSAs. There are some anomalous features that warrant its designation, one of which involves the usage of a pocket dimension that significantly lowers the mass and weight of 5514. As for its power source, SCP-037, a small star approximately 5 centimeters in diameter that contains the energy of a sun, has been implanted into its chest cavity. Along with a giant sword and a plasma-bladed hat, one of 5514's most anomalous weapons in its arsenal is the 1,000-word arrows. It involves 7 poets writing and reciting poems about the defeat and death of monsters, which in turn empowers 5514 with divine energy while demoralizing enemies at the same time. In 1998, LSA Wake 02 made its appearance near the Bay of Tokyo. Wake 02 rose from deep beneath the dark waters and let out a deafening cry that summoned lesser LSAs to join in its conquest against mankind. They advanced towards the city and laid waste to it. Coalition forces from the GOC and the Foundation went in to intercept the threat, but to no avail. Satellite footage showed images of the Bay City burning to the ground and towering monsters appearing in and out of the smog as massive hysteria broke out, a grim portrait of the cruel fate befalling humanity. Above the skies of Tokyo, just below orbit, Captain Perseus Rosales, a trained Foundation asset, piloted 5514, gearing it up for its first combat mission. As Dr. Mikasa Kaori gave the thumbs up, the formidable mech whirred as it came alive. Hydraulics checked. Heat sinks checked. Armaments checked. All systems ready to go. And so 5514 descended onto the Earth, like a meteor falling from the sky, and landed in the sea. The massive mech rose, unscathed from all the sparks and embers. 5514 detected Wake 02 almost immediately, as the entity was quick to launch its first strike on 5514. It lunged at 5514, but the mech evaded with ease. 5514 and Wake 02 then regained their composure and began studying each other. During that time, the city was in the process of evacuation. However, many residents stopped their attempts to flee and gazed upon the magnificent sight, the two titans at sea. Target locked, engaged. All right, you ugly bastard. Let's do this. 5514 prepared to rush forward. But instead of engaging the mech, Wake 02 let out a roar and quickly slithered its way towards the city. Oh, I won't let you get your way. 7 figures emerged from the midst of the evacuees and walked towards the bay. These were the poets of the 1,000-word arrows. Waves crashed upon the harbor as the poets stood steadfast, facing down a massive serpentine monster that was approaching ever closer. Then they begin to recite, "Champion, champion, exalt in the glory of the Dragonslayer." Upon hearing the words being broadcast from 5514's pataphysical mantle, Wake 02 halted its movement towards the harbor. It instead let out a loud shriek, calling aid to its side. The LSAs rampaging in the city ruins heeded its call and converged towards the sea. Soon enough, 5514 was surrounded. 5514 leaped into the air, removing its rounded recoiling plasma and throwing it at a nearby LSA. It arced across multiple targets. Upon return, the entities fell, with their heads cleanly separated from their bodies. The surrounding waters turned crimson with the blood of the fallen monstrosities. The vicious beasts slain, gone to those which were once bane. 5514 then unsheathed the cold iron sword. It thrust down into another LSA and stabbed at its heart as it fell to the ground. 5514 pulled the sword out from its dead body and slashed the throat of yet another LSA approaching. "To your right!" Dr. Kaori shouted. The mech backed away from its position and activated its flight systems to remain in the air. Wake 02's second head then protruded from the mouth of its first head. It let out another shriek, and more LSAs rose from the seabed to answer its call. The second head shot towards 5514 with great velocity, just barely missing its foot. A lesser LSA scampered up the extended appendage and pounced on 5514. The mech managed to deflect the attack, then cut down the entity mid-air. Nice try. And now, my turn. 5514 launched into the air and activated its shoulder-mounted railgun, the Beowulf Seaguard rail. It took out the eyes of Wake 02's main head. It shrieked in pain and clumsily retracted its appendage. Seeing how Wake 02 was hurting, 5514 seized the moment by propelling forward and striking at the main head. 5514 descended upon Wake 02 before piercing its head. Then it flew over Wake 02 and drew its blade down the entity's serpentine body, dragging it all the way to its tail fin. The beast was split in half. Each half twitched and squirmed for a moment, but finally it lay dead. Dr. Kaori, LSA Wake 02 has been eliminated. 5514 stood tall as the riotous waves slowly died down. It turned to face the poets at the harbor. They nodded at each other, then puffed up their chests and recited the 1,000-word arrows once more. "And the beast torn asunder, exalt in the glory of the Dragonslayer." The people cheered as the words boomed loudly across the bay. It had given them hope of rebuilding and fighting back. However, the peace was short-lived. After the demise of Wake 02, LSA Brazil 01 was spotted off the coast of Greenland. 5514 was deployed to neutralize it. This time, Captain Rosales was accompanied by an ally, the Serpent. 5514 dropped from orbit as the Serpent emerged from the waters off the coastal tundra. A storm was already brewing to welcome them. With their backs against each other, they scanned the area vigilantly for any sudden attacks within the storm. "I see him, Quinn Crake, the one you called Brazil 01. Soon enough, the sky darkened. Storm clouds rolled in, and it began to rain. Brazil 01 burst through the waters, letting out a thunderous roar, and crashed onto the Serpent. They wrestled against one another. The Serpent coiled around Brazil 01, while Brazil 01 had its rear tentacles wrapped around the Serpent. Farther out on the coast, aiding the battle from a distance, were the 7 poets of the 1,000-word arrows. They could see the silhouettes of the massive entities engaging in fierce battle far out into the sea. Braving the storm, they watched the clash between titans and recited the words, "The awaited battlefield, the destined place for the beast to die. One final, just death." 5514 charged through the waters to assist the Serpent. It grabbed Brazil 01, tearing it away from its ally. The mech pulled the beast into the air and hurled it down with great force. However, it had no effect on Brazil 01, as it quickly rose and turned to face the duo. 5514 drew its sword, holding it against Brazil 01. "You all right there, Snakey?" The Serpent had been bitten multiple times and was bleeding heavily. It flapped its ruined plumage to shake off the blood. These are deep wounds, but I will live. As 5514 activated its railgun, Brazil 01's mouth and cybernetic plating began to glow. It was charging an orb of blue energy inside its mouth. It turned into an energy beam and destroyed the railgun in the blink of an eye, staggering 5514 greatly. The beast then lunged across the battlefield, now faster than ever. The serpent moved in front of 5514 to intercept the attack, but to no avail. Brazil 01 ran past the serpent with ease and seized the 5514's sword. It swung the blade back at the mech, cutting off one of its legs and shattering the cold iron sword in the process. Next, it turned towards the wounded serpent. Brazil 01 used its many tentacles to propel itself into the air. Using the power of gravity coupled with its sheer mass, it dropped down onto the serpent. Forming multiple sharp points by grouping its tentacles together, Brazil 01 stabbed at the serpent relentlessly as Captain Rosales watched on helplessly. Damn it! Damn it! What can we do? With 5514's system failing and the serpent heavily wounded, Brazil 01 raised its head to the sky and breathed a torrent of flame in a display of dominance. But all hope was not lost. There was still one final weapon left undeployed. Undeterred by the dire state and devastation in front of them, the poets revealed 5514's trump card. The greatest weapon you can offer is that of your own heart and the light of your soul. My own heart, light of my soul. That's it, soul. I got it now. 5514 struggled to prop itself up. Then the mech angled its chest towards Brazil 01, who was still roaring loudly. Powered by the energy that's equivalent to that of a sun, the emergency sun vent drained every last bit of the mech's power and shot out a burst of immense heat and energy, obliterating Brazil 01 and blinding the entire battlefield. As the battle was won and the storm has ceased, the serpent slowly rose above the tumultuous waters. And so it's done. The beast is slain, sent to the great beyond. The serpent rises, returned to from whence it came. Remember to check out my new animation channel, TheRubber Talks, where I share my life story, thoughts, and opinions. Just click on the link in the description to enter the Rubber's world. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Which SCP do you want to see in the next video and why it is interesting? Let us know in the comment below. We will draw your story and share it with the world. Don't forget to click like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. Please share it to your friends if you like this video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.